What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is iRate Reviews, the show where I go over a comic book, its story, its art, give you my impressions, and let you know whether it's something to go grab or not. I'm going to be talking about Superman number 12. So Superman number 12 is a brand new take on a Frankenstein character from DC, which has been battered around since like the 1940s. So this is really interesting because over the last 4, 5, 6 issues, actually since the beginning of DC Rebirth, we've had a lot of Jonathan Kent and Clark Kent really kind of being a father-son combo team. So even during the Eradicator saga, Jonathan was really the focus, and then he was on Dinosaur Island. They went to the fair, all these kind of things really revolved around Jonathan and Superman and how he was acting as a dad. And this is one of the first issues where we see no Jonathan Kent. So we start off, we're in Hamilton County. Lois Lane is going to the local paper because when they were in issue number 7, they talked about that at the fair. And they really included a nice little editor's note that Lois has just recently accepted a new position at the Daily Planet. So there's kind of like that conflict and continuity, and it feels like this should have been a slightly different story, but they kind of wanted to pay homage to it anyway and kind of bring it about. And then immediately as she's sitting down with this editor, bam! Frankenstein smashes into the place, and he's about to just execute this woman right in front of Lois Lane. And who is Lois Lane other than, a savior kind of figure like Superman, except without the power? She's got the brass ones, but she just doesn't have the power to pack it up. Except for now, she has a Hellbat Armor glove and just smokes Frankenstein like out of the building. They run outside, they jump onto Frankenstein's like hover bike thing and just take off, and he leaps up onto it, and there's this great action panel where they're just flying through everything, and he's got his sword out. It's a really good visual spectacle. Doug Mahnke does a really good job on this overall book, and the art is just fantastic. But he gets dropped off, gets knocked off the bike out in the middle of nowhere, and then we see Farmer Cobb, the guy that brought Jonathan Kent back after he broke himself. We see him out in the middle of the field. He's got a shotgun and just plants him right into Frankenstein. And then there's this really cool little slow scene where Frankenstein is just slightly on fire and walking towards him. And he's just like, click open, reload. And it was really funny to see that kind of interaction and the complete lack of intimidation. The lack of effect Frankenstein has on Cobb. And then Superman's coming in, and it takes half the book for Superman to be here. But Frankenstein's hit the button on his hover bike, it's flown in, it smashes into Superman. There's a whole bunch of more battle that ensues. Nothing really that means much to the plot, except that in the final page we get the reveal that this is Krug, who I don't know who he is. But okay, cool. So Frankenstein's part of the Shade organization, the supernatural hunters kind of situation, and I'm interested to see how Superman and Frankenstein potentially team up in these future issues, because it seems like the initial conflict is primarily over. So as far as the story goes, it's not necessarily the strongest story because to be honest with you, it's pretty average. It's what I would expect for a normal Superman story that's not necessarily relying on the actual family premise of this whole interaction. It doesn't feel as intimate as it was, when we were dealing with John, when we were dealing with Lois, when we were dealing with Superman, but it still feels like a Superman story. It's a little bit more box stock, something a little bit more action comicsy than what I would expect, but it's still pretty good. As far as the art's concerned, I really like the art style. The art really conveys a lot of those things, and some of these action set pieces are great. I mean, there's when the hover bike just smashes into Superman, the glow from the side of the bike and the lines that it makes in the space, it's just amazing. I really like that. So as far as Superman number 12 and the series in general, I have to recommend it because it's probably one of the best books coming out of DC Rebirth right now. It's going to be interesting to see how Tomasi and Gleason kind of take Superman in this direction without necessarily focusing on the family aspect like they have been in the previous issues, but really kind of getting back into Superman and what he does and how it's impacting his family life. So, highly recommended from me. Well, that was my review of Superman number 12, but I want to know what you guys thought about it too, so hit me up in the comments down below, and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything having to do with the world of comics.